So, I was.
Do you have to say hi or anything or no?
You didn't introduce yourself? Who are you? Where have you come from? How long have you been in Australia?
Yeah. Hi, my name is Uzma and I came to Australia in 1998, and since that I've been living in here. I moved up to Avalon and then I I'm still living in Narrabeen.
Yeah. Nice. Okay. So, what would you say are the differences between Pakistan and Australia?
There are differences, but at the end of the day, the people are people, and Australian people are very beautiful, and they have similarity to the values and culture and families and with their emotions and things.
What about like family structure, like gender roles? Would you say there's a difference there between Pakistan and Australia?
Definitely, 100%. It's over there. It's like male dominating society, so it would be like man is going to do and he's the head of the family. There's nothing wrong with that, but obviously it's gonna be take it into extreme level. The father is going to make the decisions and the lady or the wife would be like a second rate citizen, so she won't be have that sort of freedom to say things or make decisions. So there was another thing there too that you were talking about, the culture of
What would you consider to be the main difference between the culture of Pakistan and Australia?
the Pakistani culture is very conservative, and I find it personally very hard sometimes, because there is not much flexibility in that culture as compared to Australian culture. Is quite open and quite flexible with lots of other things. The female can work here, the female are encouraged to work here, they have equal rights, and people very respectful towards ladies.
Okay. So how would you say that females communicate differently in Pakistan then?
Communicate like talk.
Yeah, because they're not valued as much, their opinions.
Yes, they are not valued much because of lack of education too, because men are not well educated. So that makes it harder, because if there's education there and then they will think about that everyone is equal, and they should be, but lack of education makes a big thing, and then that makes it harder for the female to go ahead and support herself. So if she is depending on the husband for the rest of her life, or then if he passed away, then she would be depend upon the son or the brothers. So that makes it very hard, because if she would hard to communicate, hard to take herself and being independent, lift her up, support her.
So I don't know what question that was. I just thought of it just then.
To support herself or something.
Yeah, it was. Oh, you said something earlier about how girls are expected not to talk, to be quiet.
Yeah, the girls need to be submissive. That's how they train them from the beginning. And we're not supposed to argue. Whatever need to be told, whatever need to be said, you need to accept that. Never going to ask much question. You need to be obedient. Obedient is the big thing, the obedience, that if your father or your husband will tell you it's a daytime, and even it's the middle of the night, 2 o'clock in the morning, you will accept that, because yes, it is daytime. Brainwashed. Basically, no question asked. Whatever they're doing it, that is correct. But giving education to a female, this is a no-no thing, because if you're going to give her education, you basically give that girl the freedom of speech, and she will talk, and she will have a brain in her mind. She could talk with that, and she's not going to accept that thing. So that's why they get married at age of very young, 17, 18. Their grandmothers are 30s, in their 30s. They might have 4 or 5 children, and then, or more than that actually. But it's just where they get that no security about that.
Mm-hmm. So the extended family. So who lives in your house?
For an example, I used to live with my father, my mom, and he would have 5 brothers and sisters, and then we would have a grandma permanently living with us because that's how extended family system. So, and then there will be a couple of helpers or servants, whoever they will come, they will have their flats up there, or they will just live with them. But it's just the extended family system. It is the way they are. They like to look after their older people, and it is in a good way, but at the same time there are some drawbacks are there too, because if you want to do something family time independently, you can easily do it at your home with your mom and dad, or but when there's a grandma involved, sometimes things can be a little bit embarrassing. You don't want to talk, and you do silly things being a child. You do sometimes want to go and climb up the trees, but if grandma will see that, she might think you are going to put yourself in danger. And it's very protective. And having said that, it can cause the friction between the family too, because sometimes, having said that, the grandma is very helpful, very good at looking after all the grandchildren and babysitting them or care for them, but at the same time sometimes it can be a little bit restrictive.
So communication in Pakistan, would you say that's very different from Australia, and how's that different?
Definitely is very different because the country is very conservative, but still people do communicate with each other, and families do go through it. As human beings are very resilient, and they find their way how they are used to living it. And but still I think communication is much more easier here than back home in Pakistan, because as I said, that if father or the husband or the man, he is the head of the family, he will make the decision and that's it.
Okay.
So
yeah. What you're saying about like the guns, like the expression of happiness is
yes,
different?
the culture is also very different. If you have expression of happiness and if you have expression of sadness, you both time just go and use the guns, or for example people are getting married and just go on the top of your roof and do Kalashnikov, and it means they're happy. And obviously there are consequences to that, and it's not safe as people have learned it. But kite flying is a very big in Pakistan too, and so when they communicate with that way, expressing their happiness or for anything like that, different ways of doing things like that.
Is it acceptable to show your emotions in public, or are you supposed to be very collected, like people aren't supposed to?
It's supposed to be more for the females, to be very composed and demure and subdued and submissive, not for the men. They can just go and run around whatever they want. They can play cricket on the road. No one can stop it. They can swim. So as a personally, I don't know how to swim also, but I'm working on that, living in Australia for a long time. I wanted to learn how to swim too one day. But because of the background, I was never been taught. I was never been exposed to go in the water or to make myself bathe in that, in the costume or something. So most of the people learn how to swim it, but mostly boys, and because it's more freedom for the boys.
Is where you were living in Pakistan, was there beaches or was it?
No beaches.
So where did they learn to swim?
In the canals, in the streams and things like that. So that was very common for the boys. They would just go and play. run around, bike riding. I never learned how to do the bike riding. For the first time when I came to Australia, I learned how to do a bike ride in Centennial
Nice.
Park. Yes, that was really good. So I went to the Centennial Park and started riding. That was a very exhilarating and very much freedom for me
Yeah.
because I've never ride a bike, and it was not acceptable in Pakistan to ride a bike or just being independent because it's all male dominating society. So I've learned how to drive a car now here, and I'm still on my P plate. I wanted to do it full 1 day license, and I'm on my way. But yeah, it takes a little bit longer
Can
to do the things.
can women drive in Pakistan or not at all?
They can now. People are started doing that stuff. So from 2000, there were more and more female drivers, but still there is a very much prejudice, and people are still very much conservative and living in their own way. Here we are talking about probably 55% who live in villages or country towns, and they have no education, lack of education. So the girls don't get education at all. Only 2% people in education, they get that. The
2%
girls.
of
2%.
the girls get educated.
Yeah.
Wow. Have you found it difficult to become accustomed to the differences in communication in Australia?
No, not really. Australia is pretty open to communicate, and I feel very privileged and lucky to come to Australia and live here because I never, the day I arrived here, I just was very happy to integrate. Maybe because I was educated, and when I came here, I had my master's done, and I was being educated and could speak English. So that was one of the things was very good that I could communicate with people. So straight got the job, straight up I was busy doing things and mingling with people and interaction with people, making friends. But if definitely a girl comes here on the setup with her husband, she got married with her husband, and she will have no education. She will just probably just look after the kiddies, the children, or then she feel very isolated. And then lack of education, that makes it harder for them too.
Did
But
you
personally, I didn't feel any difficulty.
did you feel uncomfortable ever when you first came to Australia at how open people were with their
Yes and no. I was very surprised how the shops were shut down. I used to live in Avalon, and 5 p.m. all the shops used to close. But where I come from in Pakistan, the shops are not open till closed till 12 o'clock at night time
Oh.
because of the weather difference. Here the weather is beautiful. Over there the weather was very hot. So people would have closed down. Like in Italy, they do it for siesta, and then they wake up, and then they will have from 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock when the sun is a little bit down. So the girls will, go outside and do shopping. And the cultural difference here a lot more with eating patterns too. In Pakistan, people would eat at 9 o'clock. That's a normal thing for them to eat at night time, and onwards, probably eating at 11 o'clock too late. I find it because I'm very much accustomed to Australian way of eating and everything. 5 o'clock, 7 o'clock, dinner done, dusted. So that's fine. But I'm happy the way to eat it because I find it's practical. So that's the best way to eat it. Eat early, and then you can just relax and do something else.
I remember one time you told me a story about how there were two girls eating ice cream on the beach.
Yeah.
And that surprised you because they
Yeah.
were so loud.
Yes, they were very happy, and you could eat ice cream. You could just laugh, even go on the roadside or something, and you can just talk whatever you want to. And two girls can definitely, or three girls, or females can go out and have fun too, because there is a much more security and acceptance. Having said that, Pakistan has their own limitations, and wherever you are, when I used to live up there, I used to respect their values and their customs, and you want to be safe. Otherwise, if you go outside, it's considered to be without your father or your brother not a very nice thing. You can put yourself in danger. and you can get hurt.
Mm.
So